Salutations, and welcome back to Quantum Wisdom. Today we have some very special guests. We have Jeanette and Mark. And can you introduce yourself just a little bit? What do you guys do?
Well, I'm currently disabled at home.
I'm a homeless shaman weirdo.
So we're just normal, everyday people, right? And
Speak for yourself.
Well, yeah. And then we have, in the past, talked about chakras, mindfulness, law of attraction, self-hypnosis, meditation, reincarnation. And those are just the topics that we can cover today, just in a round table of talking. So, do you guys meditate?
I do.
It's easier to say, when do you not meditate? That's shorter.
So you meditate all the time?
Almost all the time.
I do it when I go to sleep at night because that's when I need it the most.
So that's what you do for like a regiment? Do you?
Yeah. I have a regimen. I go in YouTube and I will pull out like a meditation that fits what I want to do, put my earbuds in, let my phone just kind of be tucked away, no sight, and just kind of go with the flow.
You said earbuds.
Yeah.
What do you listen to?
Just mostly a lot of the meditations from several providers, actually, several different YouTube content, creators.
And Mark, do you have a regiment?
For myself, I do a combination of Reiki and pranic healing, mostly, but I spend more time working on the environments that I'm in than I do working on a combination of working on healing myself and healing the environment, healing myself and healing the environment, because they're not really separate, just like we're breathing the air in this studio here, and the heat is leaving our body and entering our body, and it's all a big miasma. So
Interesting.
That's wonderful. Do you find any benefits of meditating?
yes.
What benefits?
Well, it's interesting. It is beneficial and detrimental, because the more healthy you get, the more sensitive you get, and the more you realize how unhealthy you are.
Yeah.
So, but then that allows you to be able to perceive your actions, environments, consequences, and things to get more and more healthy.
But that's wonderful. Right?
It is.
Yeah.
But we also live in a very unhealthy world. So for me, when I spend less time in my bubble and more time in feeling and interacting with the energies of the world, I feel a lot more sickness than I would feel as an individual if I'd used regular meditation practices.
Is that because of your environment, like your way of doing things, like being a shaman?
I think it's partly that. It's also partly, I think, the times that we live in. It's a weird dynamic where the better things get, the worse they get, because it's similar to when people start processing trauma. Usually something really good will happen that will allow them to be able to process something bad that happened. Mm-hmm. So the good and the bad are always mixed together. And so the times we're living in now, there are a lot of people going through these kind of awakenings, and a lot of people becoming healers, a lot of positive energy. And so the universe is like, okay, here's like the last 10 generations of karma for you to deal with. And so it seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse. But if you zoom out and look at the whole system, it's getting better and better and better.
Right on.
But it just feels worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting that you brought up the trauma, and that's the reason why I meditate, as I experience a great deal of trauma, both medically and also with domestic violence. So meditation actually provides me a way to calm my mind down at night so that I can sleep. If I don't meditate, then I tend to look at the ceiling all night. So it seems to be like a safe way for me to slip into the sleep that I need desperately to be able to maintain myself throughout the next day.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And really helps with any kind of stressful situations that you...
Right, like I said, I'm a victim of domestic violence, where now I'm a survivor, and what I do with the meditation is to help heal myself. Like Mark had said, I'm working on my trauma, right, and processing it. But in the middle of the night, it's kind of an inappropriate time for my brain to be going crazy. So I tend to look for something that will calm that thought process down so that I can rest.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we don't function well without rest, and a lot of people, everybody leans on their strengths. It's a tendency of people that whatever part of us we're really good at, we tend to focus on that, it's very easy to get exhausted with our strengths because we're focusing on that. So it's like if I went to the gym and only worked out this arm ceaselessly, this arm would be completely exhausted. We do that with our mind, especially. A lot of smart people find themselves working at like half intelligence because they never rest their mind. And meditation is tuning into the other consciousnesses, the other frames of reference that we have within the body, that like the heart or the intuition or these other things. And even 5 minutes of meditation can feel like a night's sleep. And you're just like, oh, I forgot that my brain could work this well.
Yeah, I'm finding that too. With the meditation that I do at night, I'm finding I can rest. And that's been a difference in my behavior, like how I handle going into a space where my abuser might be. And that has been a huge help for me, because when you deal with a lot of trauma, the hard part is the emotions, the scared feelings you get when you're out and about in public. So having that time, like you said, to rest my brain, I feel calmer going into those situations too. So those are very stressful situations that I'm able to navigate better.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so much of that is empathy. We're living in a world where everybody's stressed out, and then everybody walks out the door and feels everybody else's stress, and they think I'm just neurotic and crazy. And it's like, no, you're wading through an ocean of neurotic and crazy because everybody's stressed out at once. And so if we think about it as, oh wait, this is like if I'm interacting with you and I feel stressed, then I can be like, oh, are you okay? Is there something I can do for you? And that's a much nicer way to interact than just worrying about, oh no, why am I feeling this? And if we're both doing that, then we're both going crazy when we could both be just being kind to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find that COVID maybe makes that a little more stressful? You see that around you?
It does. COVID does. Social distancing does. Although I have a different perspective than most, probably seeing it through a spiritual lens. I can't speak to it as a medical anything because I'm not a medical anything. I'm a spiritual healer, which is a different layer of the body. It's the subtle body, the quantum body that can be felt and perceived. Like we can feel emotions, but we can't see them on an MRI. We can just see that there are parts of the body and parts of the brain that correspond with emotions. But we nobody's ever like really captured an emotion on tape, But we all experience them all the time, and we all see them all the time. But it's really the very subtle body. The same way that 100 years ago, science didn't know that cells existed, and now we know that they've got trillions of moving parts. There's layers beneath that mystics have talked about forever that are probably even more complicated than cells. Things like emotions, everyone who's ever grappled with their emotions knows that they are phenomenally complicated. They can feel that very viscerally and very intuitively.
Absolutely.
I can concur. I do feel some pretty stressful stuff when I'm going through all this trauma and trying to get it out, so I can totally relate. But I also notice that people are like really edgy right now with all of the things that are going on in the environment. And for me, I'm very sensitive to my environment. So like if there's something that moves swiftly or if people are angry, that tends to be a little bit more pressure to be around other people. So then I try not to have as many feelings around other people. So I kind of hang back. and don't really participate.
And when you guys talk to other people about meditating, do they understand or do they misunderstand? And if they do misunderstand, how do you explain to get them to understand?
Well, it's really easy for me because I'm a mom of 5, right? So I didn't know that for the entire time that I was working with them that, as an adult, that I didn't know I was hypnotizing them to calm them to sleep or whatever. So it just felt like a natural thing for us. And
It is.
It is very
It's
much a
very
natural
old and very
state to
natural.
be in.
But talking to other people, they don't tend to understand it unless they really get into, the need for it. But unless there was a real big need for it, I didn't know that I was doing my self-hypnosis, right? Like, for instance, I'd walk my kids to sleep by telling them to put every body part, and we would talk about what body part it was to go to sleep. And they still do that to this day. I just found that out. My oldest son is 28 years old. He tells me all the time.
And he's still
doing it.
Relaxes each part of the body as he's laying down.
I taught him, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. A lot of parents don't realize, or maybe they do, but they wouldn't think of it that way, that, if you're kissing a boo-boo or something, they're doing energy work. They're sending energy to the person.
Yeah, and scientists are actually recognizing that right now. Like a boo-boo would hurt more for someone that doesn't have that mommy interaction
Well,
with it.
if it's any parent to a child, if you got a boo-boo and you just kiss the boo-boo or even touch the boo-boo or injury or whatnot, it does bring down the pain for them. And it's that energy exchange. Absolutely.
Wow.
And science would say, well, this releases endorphins and oxytocin, all these things, and that's true. But science also it never claims to have the whole story because it's always looking for more information.
Well, it's the feelings that the child gets or the mother or father gets as the touching is happening.
Well, the empathy that we feel like it's happening to us.
And then that's where the brain starts kicking in and putting out the serotonins and such.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like if I get angry, I might raise my voice, but that's not all that's going on within my body.
Right.
Just because this is something you can see on a certain level doesn't mean that it means that is correlated and that is part of the reaction. But the same way that you could put me in an MRI and induce anger, you would see different things. There are people that spiritually would feel different things. There are people that would, they wouldn't hear my tone, but they would, or my volume, but they would hear my word choice. There are other people that would see my body language. There are other, we all notice different things more. I
didn't realize this went so deep. That's, I was just brushing the top of the surface with doing just the meditations at night for myself, and I didn't realize, the depth of what somebody...
It goes right back to the flight, fight, or freeze.
Or fawn.
Right back to that.
So, Mark, how do you feel about all that energy when you go out into the general public? How do you feel about all of those little nuances?
All of the above.
All of the above?
Yeah, I get many kinds of synesthesia, so energy has taste, texture, emotion, all kinds of things. Sometimes color. Sometimes it's entities and beings and spirits, and just there's way more. I mean, if you think about it, if you believe in ghosts, and not everybody does, and I was an atheist for 15 years, so I totally respect that. If someone doesn't get it, I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But if you believe in ghosts, there have been way more people than there are now.
Oh, wow.
There have been way more animals than there are now. There could have been many more civilizations than there are now. There could be more universes than there are now. So the spiritual world is going to be exponentially more complicated. It's like it's almost like if you took every civilization and stacked them into one civilization. That's sort of how jumbled and complicated those layers are, and and everybody, even people that see them a tremendous amount, only see a little bit. The same way that we have eyes that are amazing and see so many different things, but it's a teensy tiny bit of the electromagnetic spectrum. And even science, if you look at what all of our instruments can see, it's a tiny little part of this huge spectrum. And I think that's good, because we would be completely overwhelmed if we could see everything. It would be like being a toddler in a PhD class. We would have no hope of following what the professor is saying without starting out, this is 1 + 1, and,
Right.
And we're all somewhere along that spectrum.
And you probably see a lot more different people in your community that you are in that have different learned experiences as well, where they just typically put their blinders on and don't see.
From my perspective, we're all in that camp. From my perspective, and I've met people that are phenomenally aware that I can tell from just by talking to them or just by seeing them react to things that they can see and perceive way more than I do, or that they almost like seeing the popular kid but not understanding how that works. Like I can tell that there are people that have airs and graces within all different kinds of spiritual communities that I do not have, but at the same time they appear to be as blind to the things that I see.
Oh, wow.
So we're all like the blind man and the elephant. We all, no matter how much we see, there's always so much more. And I think that's why these kinds of discussions are so important, because it's like we all have a key to the kingdom.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's the test. Is like, are we willing to share? Are we willing to and share openly, so that like I'm not just talking as an alien about something that you're kind of like, oh now I have the formula, ha ha ha, I can build the evil machine. It's more like inviting each other into our worlds as guests and truly experiencing our facets in a healthy way, so that we can really know what is on the other sides of these barriers, and grow.
Mm-hmm. Do you see anything to that magnitude?
Oh yeah, I see it all the time. I've been seeing it for a long time, because I've been researching all of this for quite some time, and just watching society change the way it has, because it hasn't. If you go back 10 years, if you go back 20 years, see how things have changed from then until now. You've changed 5 years ago, you changed 10 years ago. Every step to where we've gotten today, it's a continuous.
See, for me, the domestic violence that I went through, it just kind of went and really confused my mind. And so now that I'm kind of pulling back and seeing more of that kind of spiritualistic way of thinking, and the ability to meditate, those things are just, to me, just unheard of. And in what I've lived in my life, there's like nobody that can go back and say how far this type of technique is been doing good.
Well, when you've meditated, have you felt that you have like internally changed? Has your intuition changed?
A lot has changed. I feel more calm, but I thought that was the end. I didn't think that there was anything that to go further. So I thought, okay, well, I'm just kind of innocent here maybe, and just thinking, hey, I've really got this big thing on me and I don't know how to take it out. And going to normal therapy, it has not fixed anything as far as how I feel, but doing the meditation has definitely helped.
Absolutely.
And it was just a shorter period of time too. It wasn't like a long journey like
right.
You've taken.
Any kind of journey, it's going to take a while. It's not it's a sprint, not a marathon, right?
Right.
So it's going to take as long as it takes, and you're never going to stop. The only constant in life is change, right?
And dollars if you're an American.
Yeah.
I'm just floored that there are so many parts of spirit, that spiritual enlightenment has happened with me with this meditation. It's been really strange that calm
mm-hmm.
that I can actually achieve, whereas when I went to therapy I couldn't achieve
And
as
has
much.
it given you more focus?
It has. It actually has. I feel like you said, it's the person who works at half mass or half capability. I feel like that when I do that meditation, that I can take that kind of that negative experience that I've had and put it in the garbage can and throw it away and burn it. Whereas I can't do that in a normal stance.
And just let it go.
Yeah, and let it go.
To me, trauma isn't meant to be thrown away, it's meant to be integrated. It's meant to be processed. A lot of times we spend half our lives running away from pain and toward pleasure or comfort. And in my own journey, what I'm realizing now is that many forms of comfort, the more sensitive I get, are kind of uncomfortable. Because I feel kind of numb. It's like a teenager that will cut themselves and self-mutilate because they want to feel something that is real. And so it's or the 9 Inch Nails song that Johnny Cash so wonderfully remade.
That's one of my favorites.
He says, "I hurt myself today to see if I still feel."
Yeah.
A lot of times people on a spiritual journey will prefer a painful experience that is genuine to one that is pleasant or positive and fake. It's like, would you want fake success or real failure? Some people would prefer fake success, but most people they just want to live their lives.
Well, and I want to truly heal. So, and I've been searching out for a very long time. I've been free for a while, but I didn't feel emotionally free until I started doing the meditations.
Are you feeling like that anything that you can handle in life comes from yourself?
I'm feeling more centered. If there's any way to describe it, it was that I was discombobulated.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm being able to pull back my little pieces out of the world and then just be present, because it was hard to be present when my mind was so shattered.
Yeah. How beautiful is that, right?
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. How does it feel? How does it fit within the homeless community?
Well, if you want to see shattered, the homeless community is a parade of that, because people don't become, with rare exception, people don't become homeless because they're like, ooh, this seems like it'd be fun,
Yeah.
like maybe for about 5 minutes. And there are occasionally people that choose to be homeless for various reasons, but generally it is people that are driven away from their homes, people that flee from their homes, and it is, as a healer, it's really intense, because it's a parade of every kind of dysfunction, trauma, pain, every kind of collapse of civilization, community, households that you could imagine.
Yeah.
And if you're very sensitive and you're very empathic, it's very good in that it's a crash course in trauma and helping people, but it feels almost like living 100 lifetimes of misery within a few years.
And I can kind of see where some people living in a broken home would want to flee it.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily an easy choice, but sometimes being safe is more important and risking yourselves than...
Are you finding with meditating and going within that it helps with those situations in the past that you've gone through?
It has helped. It's just one of those things that definitely need to come together somehow.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here today. We are running just a little out of time, and hopefully we can do this again. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. And salutations. Have a great, wonderful day, and we'll see you on the next episode.
So in the domestic violence community, there's definitely no understanding of how we can calm ourselves when there's that horrible physical, emotional shattering like we were talking about. Like, what can I do to, like, kind of, you know, be like a better meditator? What can I do?
To be a better meditator?
Yeah.
Live in the moment.
It sounds like you guys know.
Live in the moment.
Live in the moment.
Live in the moment. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. Live now. You don't need to live in 5 minutes. You don't need to live in 10 minutes. You don't need to live in 2 years from now.
Well, and that's
be
the thing
in
with
the moment.
That's the thing
so
with
we are
domestic violence.
right. Be here.
Yeah.